My parents never truly desired me, so they gave me a faulty vehicle hoping I would get into an accident and disappear from their lives. But in the end, they lost both of their sons because of it. Posted by you/CheezItBitBoy. My parents' clear preference for my older brother, who is 20 years old, was evident throughout our childhood. He received a car as a gift for his 18th birthday. It wasn't brand new, but it was a 20-year-old Lexus in solid condition, and he constantly bragged about it during the rest of his final year in high school. In comparison, I matched his academic performance and often surpassed him with better grades. I put in maximum effort at school and also volunteered in my community, helping clean up litter in the neighborhood. Yet when my 18th birthday arrived a few weeks ago, the celebration was completely different from his. The only thing I had wished for was a car, nothing fancy, just something dependable like what my brother had received. But my party lacked the effort they had shown for him. For his 18th, my mom prepared a homemade layered chocolate pudding cake. For mine, they simply bought a basic sheet cake from the grocery store. His party featured a professional DJ, while mine had my dad's old boombox playing some random mixed CDs. As the event wound down, I kept waiting for them to reveal a surprise gift, but nothing came. When I finally asked why I didn't get a car like my brother, they replied that they believed he had earned it through harder work. I pointed out that I had done everything he had and more. My grandmother, who was present, overheard the conversation and confronted them. She expressed deep disappointment in their obvious bias. She then told the remaining guests that my parents had no problem providing their firstborn with a car and a proper celebration, but not their younger son. She highlighted how much more thought and energy they had invested in my brother's birthday. My uncle was the first to speak up in support, and soon the rest of the family joined in. Feeling overwhelmed, I left and went to my room. Later, I received apologetic calls from several relatives. My grandparents took me out for the evening to lift my spirits. When I returned home, my parents were furious and accused me of embarrassing them in front of the entire family. I ignored them and went straight to my room. The following weeks were filled with cold silence between us. Then, just a few days ago, my parents unexpectedly handed me the keys and title to a white 1998 Subaru Legacy that appeared to run well. They basically tossed the envelope at me and told me to enjoy it. They also agreed to cover insurance for the next 6 months, just as they had done for my brother. I understand that a car is a privilege and not a right, but it still felt like I had pressured them into providing one. Update 1, 5 months later. I hadn't checked this account for about 5 months, so now I can share everything that happened afterward before I head off to college. First, I want to respond to some of the earlier comments. I genuinely needed a car because there was no public transportation option available. The nearest bus stop was more than 10 miles away, making it impossible to get a job without personal transport. To those who suggested I should return the car, claiming I was spoiled, or that I shouldn't accept anything from bad parents, please stop. My inbox was overflowing when I finally logged back in. Anyway, I did manage to find a part-time job that turned into a full-time summer position after graduation. However, just 3 weeks after starting part-time, the Subaru suffered a major head gasket failure while I was driving on the highway at around 45 mph. The temperature gauge shot up, forcing me to pull over and call for assistance. My grandparents inspected the vehicle and discovered that someone had previously applied a large amount of gasket sealer, which was still visible in the coolant system. The car had clearly been patched up poorly before my parents purchased it and was barely functional. I had been driving cautiously and never pushed the engine hard. My parents claimed they had no idea about the issues, but their response was simply to shrug and say it was karma for forcing them to buy me the car. That comment was a huge mistake because my grandparents were there and immediately confronted them. My grandma told me to wait in my room while they handled the situation. It took nearly 2 hours before I was called back. My parents looked completely drained on the couch. My uncle and two other family members had also arrived. My grandparents had pressed them and learned that my parents had simply searched for the cheapest running car nearby without any inspection or proper research on the listing. My uncle, who understands vehicles, explained that the engine damage was severe. The head gasket had warped the block, and repairs would cost far more than the car's value. I had to call work and explain the situation. They placed me on temporary unpaid leave. I want to make it clear that I had no part in what followed. My grandparents told me to relax and let them and my parents resolve it. A few days later, they returned with a 1999 Honda Civic hatchback that had about 180,000 miles. It was also white and performed reliably. Although it wasn't all-wheel drive like the Subaru, it handled well and offered better fuel efficiency. They provided a full list of recent maintenance, including a new radiator. My uncle thoroughly checked it over and approved the car. I expressed my deep gratitude to everyone involved. My parents, however, showed no happiness. They said almost nothing and simply walked away. Their attitude this time was one of complete resignation rather than resentment. The damaged Subaru was later sold for $400, and that money went into my savings account. That was only part of the story. As I mentioned earlier, my academic achievements were stronger than my brother's. I earned a 50% scholarship while he received 30% to a similar quality school, though not the same one. My parents were stunned at first, but their expressions quickly turned unhappy once the surprise faded. I chose not to push the issue, but my grandma did. She directly asked if they were happy for me. They claimed they were, but their behavior showed otherwise. My grandparents pressed further, asking why they seemed to dislike me. Why couldn't they celebrate their younger son's success? Did they want me to fail? My mother appeared distressed, and my father avoided eye contact. They quietly said they were happy and wanted me to do well in college. They even promised to contribute toward my tuition the same way they did for my brother. My grandparents firmly reminded them that there should never have been any favoritism to begin with. I thanked them for their support and received a weak handshake from my dad and a stiff hug from my mom. The whole interaction felt artificial. While I was grateful for the car and tuition help, their lack of genuine emotion was obvious. Later, I asked my grandparents if they knew the root cause of my parents' behavior. They gave me a serious look and explained, I wasn't adopted, but I was unplanned. My parents had hoped for one boy and one girl but ended up with two sons. After my brother was born, they really wanted a daughter next. They had agreed to stop after two children. They refused to learn my gender beforehand and were certain I would be a girl. They had purchased plenty of girl clothing and items in advance. When I was born a boy, I ended up wearing my brother's hand-me-downs until I was around 3 because of all the unused girl stuff they had bought. From the moment I arrived, I was a disappointment to them. My grandparents acknowledged that my parents have deep issues, but said they had been this way for so long that change was unlikely. Since then, my parents have avoided talking about my college plans as much as possible. Following advice from concerned messages, I contacted my college to ensure that any calls or emails claiming to be from me would be verified directly with me, just in case my parents tried anything. I doubt they would, but I wanted to be cautious. Unexpectedly, my brother reached out to me. Our grandparents had informed him of everything. He offered an apology in his own way and said he hoped I would build a good life away from home. He admitted he planned to stay in his current state after graduation because he liked it there. Our parents wanted him to return, but that wasn't happening. I told him I understood and might do the same. The conversation was a bit awkward since we hadn't spoken much in years. My grandparents and extended family threw me a surprise party that weekend. It was modeled after my brother's 18th celebration, complete with a DJ and a large chocolate cake made by my grandma. I was overwhelmed with gratitude. My parents attended, but stayed distant the whole time, sitting quietly at a corner table and drinking. Their expressions showed even deeper defeat. It seemed the party was not only to celebrate me, but also to highlight my parents' shortcomings. The family had made their disapproval very clear. My grandma remarked that no one is too old to learn humility. On a personal note, my summer job went well, and I worked hard to save money before leaving for college. I plan to give proper notice when I resign. This will likely be my final update. Thank you for reading. Update 2, 2 years later. It has been 2 years since I left home. I thought I might post one last time in 2024 when my brother finished his 4-year degree, just like I'm doing now. For anyone who remembers, I'm the person whose parents faced strong criticism from the family for their obvious favoritism toward my older brother. I later learned from my grandma that the main reason was their strong desire for their second child to be a girl. My grandma later revealed even more details after I moved out for college. Before my birth, my parents were so sure I would be a girl that they bought lots of girls' clothing and accessories without confirming the gender. About a year ago, she told me that my mother had actually tried to raise me as a girl during the first 6 months of my life. She dressed me in girls' outfits and used a different name, with my father supporting it. I know it's true because my grandma showed me old family photos where I was wearing pink as a baby alongside my brother. Some photos even showed a name tag with the girl's name they had chosen. Once the family found out, they made my parents stop. My grandparents, despite being traditional, firmly told my mother that it was wrong to raise me as something I was. They put an end to the girl treatment. Instead of buying new clothes, my parents continued giving me my brother's old things for years until my grandparents noticed and intervened again. Learning all this helped me understand how much worse my childhood could have been without my grandparents' protection. I am deeply grateful to them. My mother apparently had trouble using my real name for the first couple of years. Because I wasn't the daughter they wanted, they never formed the same bond with me that they had with my brother. When my grandparents learned I wasn't receiving new items like my brother, they threatened to seek guardianship. They had proof of the mistreatment. My parents, fearing public embarrassment, temporarily acted more caring. But over time, that turned into indifference and possibly resentment. Since I moved out, they have distanced themselves from the family. They focused heavily on work, partly because the family insisted they contribute to my college costs like they did for my brother. Work also gave them an excuse to avoid everyone. My grandma mentioned they may have even slept in their cars, sometimes to avoid coming home. I only saw them during Christmas at my uncle's house, where they barely spoke to me. Now that I'm living independently and doing well, they have stopped pretending altogether. They don't seem to want me in their lives anymore after the family confrontations, even though it was their own actions that caused it. They have become extreme workaholics. My grandmother said my old bedroom remains untouched exactly as I left it, while they kept my brother's room clean and prepared for his return. That return never happened. They traveled to attend his graduation and planned a big celebration. I wasn't invited, though my grandparents went and shared the details. My parents were still expecting him to move back home. Instead, he told them he had already lined up a job and found his own apartment. My father got angry, and my mother broke down in tears begging him to return, but he refused. Over the past 2 years, my brother and I have slowly rebuilt our relationship. He found my Reddit posts and called me. He wasn't upset, he just wanted to talk. He confessed that our parents had put heavy pressure on him too. Our mother was overly controlling, and our father had strict expectations. Seeing me outperform him despite their favoritism shattered them. My brother's decision not to return home hurt them even more. The way our parents treated him is why we drifted apart as kids. He did pick on me sometimes, but that was because being the favorite affected him. Once he moved out and got counseling, he realized the favoritism had been harmful to him as well. My brother now has a girlfriend he met in college. He kept her hidden because he knew our parents wouldn't approve. When they found out, they strongly disapproved. My mother even called her a derogatory name without having met her. My brother confronted them angrily. His girlfriend is in nursing school and comes from a good family with similar values. My brother says she's amazing. My mother went as far as hiring a private investigator to check on her, but found nothing negative. Still, she blamed the girlfriend for my brother's decision, even though he had made up his mind earlier. This led to another major argument, where my parents accused him of being ungrateful after everything they gave him. He pushed back, saying that being the favored child was also a form of pressure that almost turned him into them. That broke them further. My brother informed our grandparents, leading to another family intervention that I joined via video call. My parents tried to ignore me, but my brother insisted they address me. We all told them it was time to treat both sons equally. They had allowed their disappointment over not having a daughter to destroy their relationship with me from the start. My father eventually exploded, saying they admitted they messed up but couldn't change the past. He pointed out they were still helping with my college costs. The intervention ended badly. My mother cried and apologized to me, but it still felt insincere. She quickly shifted her focus to my brother. When he told her to apologize properly to me, my father ended the call. He then told everyone to leave. My grandparents' final words were how disappointed they were, and that perhaps losing both sons would teach them the consequences of favoritism. Currently, my parents have cut contact with most of the family. There are rumors they might move, but they have a paid-off house and good jobs, so it seems unlikely. Since neither my brother nor I plan to return, it probably doesn't matter. I doubt they would welcome me anyway. I remain thankful for their financial contribution to my education, which reduced my loans significantly. But as parents, they fell short in many ways.